So last day we have done till the nappy, that is fusiform. So today we can start with the nappy form.
Okay, sir.
That is the modification of taproot. Modification with respect to storage. That means we have been doing with respect to storage, respiration, then that means with respect to storage. That is nappy form. Now what is this nappy form type of taproot? This is a type of taproot which obviously originate from the radicle, and here we can see that they are highly swollen at the middle. They are highly swollen at the middle and abruptly tapers at the end. So in this type, the taproot swollens at the middle. Swells is swollen at the middle. They are highly swollen at the middle and appear spherical in outline. That means they appear spherical in outline. They are so swollen that they appear spherical in outline. And after becoming so much swollen at the middle, so that they appear spherical in outline, and they gradually, instead of being gradually tapering at the lower part, they abruptly tapers, and they abruptly tapers at one end below. So how can be the structure? How will it be looking like? So nappy form is definitely a type of taproot which is showing swelling at the middle, and they are so much swollen that they appear spherical in outline, and they abruptly, instead of gradually tapering as you have studied in case of conical fusiform, remember that they gradually swollen at gradually tapers at the end. In case of fusiform, you have studied that they gradually tapers at both the ends. In case of conical, the base is swollen,
Okay.
that is the upper part, and then they gradually tapers at the lower part, isn't it? Remember this.
Yes, sir.
And in case of nappy form, what we see is that the structure is highly swollen at the middle, and then they gradually, instead of being gradual, they abruptly tapers at the lower end below. So they more or less looks like this. This is the stain, which is also disc-shaped stain, and I told you what is this disc-shaped stain known as. This is known as acylescent stain. From this acylescent stain, this type of the root will become highly swollen at the middle in this manner, in this way, and they will taper. The secondary roots which are coming out, because you know that this is a primary root, so they can give rise to the secondary roots which are coming out in this manner, and over this there is presence of crouches of leaf like this in this manner. The leaves are appearing in this manner. So this looks like a vegetable, you know that this is known as turnip. Yes. So this part represents the hypocotyle. We remember that when a seed germinates, the lower part, that means which the portion below the nodal zone, which is going to give rise to the radicle, is known as hypocotyle. Since this type of root, it is also a taproot, and here we can see that the taproot is swollen, so it appears in this manner. So the hypocotyle is going to be appearing, or hypocotyle is going to be present at this region. So this region marks the hypocotyle.
Okay, sir.
Yes. And this is the upper part. This is the upper part. And here below, it is the primary root. This one is the primary root. And then the secondary roots, they are coming out in this direction. These are the secondary roots. And I have told you about the stem, which is highly reduced, and that is known as acylescent stem is over here. So I'm writing it over here again, that this is known as acylescent disc-shaped stain. Over these, you can see that these are the leaves which are present, and the root abruptly tapers. Abrupt tapering of the root is found over here. Okay, just see the structure and tell me. So this type of root you can find in case of turnip. So
Okay, sir.
below this is a nappy form. That means abruptly tapers at one end below. This is called nappy form, which is responsible for storage. This type of root, this uh, type of taproot modification for storage. It is known as nappy form. And moreover, we can see in this case, we see that the turnip only is a, that means it is found in case of turnip, and many other roots also shows this type of swelling. Now, one of the example we can cite over here is turnip. One of the example it can be stated over here is turnip, right? In case of turnip, we see that the turnip only the lower part, there is presence of secondary roots. So here the secondary root is present in the lower part. And obviously the secondary root which are reduced, and these type of roots they are reduced, and this part represents a primary root. They are highly reduced. The secondary roots, these roots are reduced in structure, and the primary roots is highly swollen. But the upper highly swollen part which do not bear roots is the primary root. So secondary root is highly reduced, and this part which do not bear secondary root is the primary root. Above this there is hypocotyle, and above that there is a acalysan disc shaped stem. That means the stem is present, and below this is the root, this is the primary root, and the anterior part is highly swollen to form a spherical in outline, to give a shape which is spherical in outline, and then abruptly tapers downward, giving rise to the secondary roots which are mainly concentrated in the lower part which is abruptly tapered, while the upper part of the root which is lacking the secondary root. So upper part of the tap root, the principal root, is lacking the secondary roots. Okay.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. So now after this, um, so this secondary roots and mainly serve the purpose of storage. So it is not that part of the primary root or not the part of the tap root. It represents the hypocotyle. That means the upper highly swollen part which do not bear secondary roots. We generally know that the root bears the primary root bears the secondary root. So the upper part which is highly swollen, which is not the primary root, it represents the hypocotyle. This one. This represents the hypocotyle. It is the primary root is originating from here, and gradually this other. It is better to mark the primary root over here. That means like this. And these are the structures which are coming out from the primary root is the secondary. So in case of fusiform, along with the napiform, roots along with the primary roots, that is the napiform, the roots along with the primary root, the part involved in the storage is the hypocotyle. So here it is a very important point. So in case of fusiform you have seen in case of radish, right?
Yes, sir.
So in case of fusiform as well as in case of napiform, as well as in case of napiform, as well as in case of napiform, the part which is involved in storage that is uh, the primary root that is fusiform along with napiform, the roots along with the primary root, the part involved in the storage is the hypocotyl. This is known as hypocotyl. This hypocotyl is there along with the primary root and the secondary root. That is, along with the primary root, the part involved in the storage is the hypocotyl. This is important. So, important for MCQ. So, in case of fusiform as well as in case of napiform, the part which is involved in storage is the hypocotyl. So, why I'm saying all these things, they are important because this region is hypocotyl. They are mainly responsible for storage, and this part is not involved in storage. They are giving rise to the secondary root. This is the primary root. After this, there is tuberous root. Saurav and others, you can understand? That is.
Yes, sir, I
Who's
can understand.
Then tuberous root is present over here. Another type of root, that is tuberous root. This is the fourth category. This was the third one. Right. Now, what is tuberous root? The name tuberous root suggests that the root shows uneven thickening. Roots shows uneven thickening. Uneven thickening or uneven swelling. Now, in case of this type of roots, we can see that these type of tap roots are irregular in shape. So, when uneven thickening is present, we can say they are irregular in shape. And this type of roots are found in example is Mirabilis jalapa, that is Mirabilis jalapa, which is also known as the 4O claw plant. After this, the storage part for the taproot modification is completed. This is understood, all of you? Uzma, understood? Saurav?
Yes, sir, understood.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. So this, what we have discussed is the different types of taproot modification. First of all, what I talked about is the conical. Yes, it is found in case of carrot. Then fusiform in case of radish. napiform in case of turnip, and tuberous in case of Mirabilis jalapa. Yes, it is known as the 4 o'clock plant. So now after this, the next part of the taproot modification is for respiration. Now here we know that these are also basically they are modified for respiration and they are simply known as the respiratory route. So in case of respiration, the taproot which are modified, they are generally found in case of, that means the salt content of the soil is very high. They are the mangrove plants, and this type of root which are mainly responsible for respiration, they are known as respiratory root. Yes, the respiratory root, or you can also call it as pneumatophore. It is also called breathing roots, or sometimes they are known as aerophores. So these are the different names which have been suggested. And these are the alternative names which have been suggested for the modification of the taproot that is responsible for respiration. So let us try to understand this type of root, how it behaves or how where it is found. So respiratory root are present in mangrove plant. So these type of roots are found in mangrove plant, and these are also they are found in the mangrove plants. Mangrove plants grow in marshy areas. Basically, this wherever this mangrove plants they grow, the soil is having high percentage of salt. That means they contain high amount of sodium chloride. This type of soil is known as physiologically dry soil. These are known as a physiologically dry soil, and moreover, since these contain high percentage of salt, in order to maintain the that is tonicity, they will also contain high amount of water. So, mangrove plant grows in marshy areas. This soil also contains high amount of water, which cannot be directly utilized by the which cannot be directly utilized by these plants, because you know that the root here, they are having high percentage of salt, but here the salt concentration of this soil is very high. If it is very high, then in under such condition, what can happen that the root may lose water by exosmosis. Getting the point? The root will be losing water by exosmosis. So
Yes, sir. Got
yes,
it.
so this type of soil is called physiologically dry soil. High amount of water is present, and though this water may not be uptaken by the root because the soil is already having high percentage of salt, so the high amount of water which is present in the soil, making the soil making the soil marshy. This is making the soil marshy, and almost, that means there is almost we can say that the water content of the soil is very high, and due to the high water content in the soil, there is almost anaerobic condition in the soil. That means if the water, you know, the roots goes deep into the soil, and the air which is trapped in between the soil particles, the air which is trapped in between the soil particles, from these they used to absorb the oxygen. The root have small pores. They are supposed to absorb the oxygen which are present within the soil particles, so making the soil marshy, this water, and along with that, this water is going to clog the spaces of the air which are supposed to be present in between the soil particles. So this water, you can write high water content clogs the spaces, air spaces, from which root from which root can absorb water. So root can absorb oxygen, can absorb air, you can say. So high content, this high water content clogs the air spaces from which root can absorb air, right? uh
Yes, sir.
yes. And due to which, if you can hear, and due to which high water content clogs the air spaces from which the root absorbs air for respiration. So you can easily understand this respiration is going to get hampered because the spaces which was having air for the roots to absorb the air for respiration, you can say for gaseous exchange, now it has been occupied by the water. So those spaces are clogged by the water, and therefore root cannot perform respiration. So this makes the root unable to perform respiration. This makes the root, or you can simply say that this impairs the respiration in root. This impairs the respiration by the roots. Now, to avoid or to adjust this condition, what the root they will be doing? Okay, a high water content is going to create anaerobic condition. So this particular condition is the anaerobic condition.
Yes, sir.
Huh. And due to which the aerobic condition of the soil due to high water content will be stopped. But the roots require oxygen for survival. So the secondary roots which arises from the body of the tap root or the primary root, they will grow above the soil and therefore they are negatively geotropic. To adjust this situation, the secondary root, because the primary root will be involved in attachment anchorage. If the primary root comes upward, then what will happen to the plant? It will fall down, right? Because the main function of the root is absorption, anchorage, that is being done here by the primary root. So the secondary root, yes, the secondary root which arises from the body of the primary root, which arises from the body of shows positive geotropism. It will show, sorry, negative geotropism, because we know root, they are positively geotropic, so they are over here, it is showing negative geotropism. And shows negative geotropism and arises above the surface of the soil. And negative geotropism, and they comes out of the soil obtaining oxygen, comes out obtain oxygen. Here root, here the secondary root shows negative geotropism. They comes out from the soil to obtain oxygen. This is very important. Why? Because we have studied that root is always positively geotropic. So this is an exception to the characteristics of the root. So I can write over here, this is an exception to the characteristics, right? Okay. Understood up to here?
Yes, sir.